you know, preventing all of us from moving forward for a while. Asshole. I meant to say it's an asshole. What asshole? That's how nice I am. No, it's really been fun chatting here, and I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Joe, for having me. I love this theater, and I love Joe, and we have been doing this show now for 4 years, and just to be able to come to this cool neighborhood theater and do this show is so awesome. I love it. And I love that my name is on the marquee that says LIzz Winstead smashed. There's that movie called Smash, although it just looks like you're paying to see me drunk. Maybe. Yeah. So, here's the thing. I have a bad knee. I live in Brooklyn. And I was walking, they built this stadium 3 blocks from my house for the Brooklyn Nets. Have you heard about this? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I was on the community board to stop it from happening. And we failed. Apparently Jay-Z's more popular than my neighborhood people. So that went through. So I now walk by it every day and go, fuck you, stadium, and I raise my fist just like that. It's like a ritual. I do it for myself. I'm just like, it makes me feel happy. So Christmas Eve, I was shopping for food because there's a co-op near the stadium. So it's just the juxtaposition's hideous. So I've got my bags and I'm walking and I'm like, fuck you, stadium, and I took a step on nothing. And wiped out completely. Went down on my knee and my hands, and my oranges are rolling around. And I was like, really, fuck you, stadium? Because I cut my jeans, and I was bleeding, and I was like a 4-year-old, and then a 50-year-old, all into one. It was just horrible. So if I'm limping about, it's not like I'm a pirate. I actually have an injury. But anyway, so, oh my God. How many of you have come to the show before? Okay, good. So normally how I do the show is I categorize the show into like hunks of the year, like the year in, you know, corporate malfeasance and the year in politics. And oh, yeah, right. So I decided that this year was so intense that I had to whittle the show down from 4 hours of material to 90 minutes, and I was like, I can't have an opening act, I can only have my talented nephew. And then I just am kind of going to try to do it slightly chronological. So I decided what I would do is I'm going to talk about the event sort of from election night to now, and then take us back to how the fuck we ever got to that point. It just seemed more reasonable because, you know, I have been waiting with bated breath to find out what the fiscal cliff means. I don't know about you. And every day I'm like, is the show going to talk about the fiscal? What's going to be the fiscal cliff news? Will there be any? I don't know. But we will find out. Because it was such a crazy year with this election. I've never seen white people so on edge in my entire life, honestly. And I've never seen liberals more into technology in my fucking entire life as they were panicking to the run-up of this election. The insanity of people watching the polls, the psychotic poll. Did you do psychotic poll? Were you watching every poll? The Gallup polls, crazy. People were sleeping with their cell phones. People were like, you know, masturbating to Nate Silver. They didn't know what to do. It was so crazy. Really, how many people here were on a Nate Silver binge where you found yourself in your underwear, eating food you shouldn't? I'm telling you, we need like a 538-step program. After this, it's insane. And my friends kept freaking out, going, what are we going to do? The polls say, the only thing polls tell you is how old people with a landline will vote. And the more liberal people got, were about the election. And they proved their whiteness to me. Because if people were really, really panicked, I was like, you don't know many black folks, do you? Because if you think black folks are going to let this election get thrown, you are fucking wrong. Because all my black friends were like, I'm going to stand in line. I'm going to stand in line starting on the 3rd. My vote will count. And it was great. So I was like, great. So anybody with a lot of black friends was like, this election's going to be fine. And it was kind of just white liberals who walked around being all Whole Foodsy. Those are the ones who were super freaked out. Whole Foodsy, you know. Yeah, Whole Foodsy. It's a whole thing. You know, it's those Prius people who you can spend a lot of money on chaos. We all know that. I mean, a lot of you are them, let's be honest. Because there is a smug superiority to you. You know, you kind of walk around that smell of low carbon footprint. You have recumbent bikes, and you all, you know, with your cooler on the back of your flag. And code bag from some various radio station that played shit at the time. You're like, I don't fucking care about this country's music. Let's be honest, I don't. Cameroon has a fine music scene. I don't get it. But election night was this. There was a solidarity, an unspoken solidarity that happened on election night. And it was so brilliant. Basically, I know 90% of you did what I did. I was sitting with some friends. The election returns came in. We're all watching, right? And then, at 11:18, they announced Barack Obama was the president of the United States, and I couldn't turn it over to Fox fast enough. Down. That's what I thought about that night. Seriously, it was the Hidden Road. It was the most amazing thing ever to watch. Because you just sat there and looked at Karl Rove, and he was like, it's gonna be happening. I purchased this election. It's happening. We can't call this. I have money on these things. I know. I personally have taken these votes and thrown them in the garbage. I was like, no, you see, here's the thing, dude. You could purchase all you want. What was so great is that these fucking assholes could not buy authenticity. It was so amazing! Right? And I was watching, this is one of my tip-offs, was so incredible. I was just sitting there one day and I was watching CNN, because I watch that for a change when I want to see people more so stupid. It's not people like you don't know where they stand, but they're not. And they had somebody from the Obama campaign and somebody from the Romney campaign blabbing on and on. And the guy from the Romney campaign was all smug, and he was like, well, in Ohio, you know, we knocked on 35,000 doors just Sunday. The guy from the Obama campaign goes, that's great. We knocked on 400,000. Because that's really what it boiled down to. Anybody who thought that Mitt Romney had any kind of ground game, it's like Barack Obama invented the ground game. Mitt Romney's ground game was like in France going door to door, trying to convince people to join this club where you wear magical underwear and baptize dead people. Like, that's not helping anyone. You were never winning. That's usually how you lose, when you're not winning. And then when Megyn Kelly took that walk to the cave of shame, or whatever place she was walking to, she stands up in her boots and goes, well, I'm gonna go check in that room where we have people who tell us things and see what they're doing. It was so great. And watching those super PACs spend it all, I am like, yes, you assholes. And you have to watch all this weird orange hair brigade in Mitt Romney's hotel room, Sheldon Adelson and Trump, and they're all just sitting there going, this happened. Blaming everyone, blaming the storm. Like Mitt Romney was so interesting before the storm. And then my favorite was voter fraud. It's like, yeah, really voter fraud. There's more cases of women getting prostate cancer than there was of voter fraud. There's more illegitimate raping going on than voter fraud. I mean, it's so insane. And then Romney just started cutting up the credit cards that night. Staffers couldn't get home. He wouldn't let people pay to get home. It was like, we're done here. I'm like, wow, you've never been more efficient as you are shutting people down. And in Minnesota, man, you guys must have been tearing your hair out. I know. Here. There was so much good and so much almost good. I mean, Michelle Bachmann had one foot in the graves. Oh, you're gonna thumbs down, honey. You got a long way. You're gonna thumb down now, honey. Oh boy. And you're in the front row. You're fucking stuck. You were sad. I thought you were like, not so good of a joke. Oh, okay. Like all of a sudden, this is the voice. Here, let me just do my jokes like this, and then we'll spin out. But both of those amendments, wow! And I have to tell you, I came back here and did a whole bunch of those house parties, and it was really fun. And I love, and that amendment went down in such a Minnesota way that it made me endlessly happy. Because it was like, you could just hear these people, like moms who weren't sure, sitting in that voting booth going, well, I don't know if I like two guys getting married, but I don't want to be a jerk about it. Potholes, maybe that could let them get in there, but until they fix some stuff on my street, maybe they shouldn't be into all this business. And do you know what's awesome? If these assholes have to go someplace else. For this, and I just found this, and I was like, I fucking hate these people. They are anti-marriage people wearing, marriage is for straight people t-shirts, dressed in weird plushy outfits, being all smug. Which, first of all, they're two different animals. So they defeat their whole fucking t-shirts. Like, I don't even get it. They're so stupid. Well, we're all for lions and tigers fucking. Louis. Oh my God. It was so awesome. That letter was so brilliant that I could not even believe that I was like, he is a genius. And I was jealous. I hate when I'm jealous when people write things. Like the word God monster. I didn't think of it. It was fast. But it was great. So the Democrats took control of both houses of the legislature, and then there was the awesome Amy Koch scandal. I know, she's really great. Because when that happened, I thought, oh, really, another just anti-gay crusading person who has an affair. I'm like, who cares? You know, I just thought, what makes this interesting? The fact that she didn't have an affair with someone of her same sex? Because that's always the way it goes down, right? It's terrible, we cannot have, same-sex marriage while he's being blown, Not every time, constantly. And then, it went off into my head where I was like, wait, didn't Amy Koch have an affair with that guy in the chicken suit? And so I got to Google, Amy Koch has an affair with guy in chicken suit. And I was proven right, which was great, because the picture comes up with the guy in the chicken suit who was at the Democratic Convention thing, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, now we can make all these, clucking her, Chick-fil-A, come on, I'll stop. That one is a grumble. I admit, but you have to admit, it's kind of hilarious, Chick-fil-A. Sometimes you're giving gifts. Now there's 20 women in the Senate. That is so great. I love that. Elizabeth Warren, she makes me endlessly happy. You know how you know Elizabeth Warren's so great? When she keeps talking, people like her more. With politicians, that never happens. Usually they keep talking and you go, oh right, that's why I hate you. But when they're talking, and then we just flossed out so much of the bad. Jordan McCullough, out of the team. Joe Walsh out of the team, and Ellen West, I don't even know what that was about. But they're gone. They're gone. And Obama even won Florida. A week later, but he won Florida. Florida cannot get its shit together. Seriously, Florida. Well, I mean, I guess, when you are a state that is just, basically a flaccid penis. I don't know what we expect from that. We should expect nothing. The saddest state. Well, your state should be in 2 bathtubs and an ad. It's a problem. Weirdest commercial ever, isn't it? Why do you have that? I don't understand it. Why do you have an erection drug and at the end no one ever has sex? It's so fucking weird. It's like, try this drug and then your kitchen turns into a carnival. It's like, is this acid or is this healthy? If you've never seen my show, I have a lot of tangents I go off on. It needs to be well respected. So we'll get there. We're going to be here for hours. Just kidding. But, so in some retrospect, the election was really, really good for progressives. And it's really, really, really good for gay pot smoking progressives. I mean, it was evident, where they're legalizing pot in states, and there's 4 different marriage amendments that, went the way that people who are for, happiness would want. And yet still, the conservatives were harping on the fact that the problem was their candidate wasn't a true conservative. That was the problem. The candidate needed to be more conservative. Which makes it official. We have a crisis in White Afghanistan. It's kind of insane how out of control it is in White Afghanistan. They can't help themselves. Mitt Romney is fresh off being a giant loser and then says that the reason Obama won was because of the gifts that he gave people. Did you get your Obama gift? Wasn't it awesome? I know, I love my gifts. So they keep coming, the gifts. And it was like, God, can you just not realize you lost? And then poor President Obama has to have lunch with that fucking Mitt Romney. Organize that. Why do you have to have that? The guy's been shitting on him for 6 years. And then it's like, oh, you want to come for lunch? And then the son says he didn't want to be president anymore. Yeah, I I don't know which one, the one with tag or trip or triage or trachea, trap. He didn't even, I mean, how fourth grade is that? I didn't want him anyway, I wanted her. He didn't want it for 6 years. It's so ridiculous. I just can't believe it. And then the battles are raging. I mean, John McCain is really, I don't know what's going on. He's got blockage. Is there anyone more angry than John McCain? I mean, he just is so riddled with hate. It's like, can't you retire and go visit someone or something? There's no flavor of pudding that would lure you into going to a place. Seriously. They just need to order him one of them step-in bathtubs and get him the fuck out of the city, man. I mean, the way he treated Susan Rice was so fucking shameful. I know, I'm telling you, it was so unbelievable. And then he's just like frothing at the mouth to get on that committee just so he could shit on her again. It's like, what's wrong with you? And then he gets his way. And then and it's going to be John Kerry, of course, which they're all fine with because they can put that ridiculous centerfold back in. Then John McCain hates Chuck Hagel. I think this is just like, maybe Barack Obama is just purposely trying to slow torture John McCain by nominating everyone he hates to cabinet positions. It would be sort of genius, right? To get these people. Maybe Sarah Palin might be. I mean, it was just relentless crazy. And then we got a little bit of a fun little respite with the Petraeus scandal. That was fun. That was full of all kinds of fun, right? First of all, you're looking at Petraeus going, really? That guy's got it all? He seems like somebody you might have sex if you lost a bet. Not that I make those kind of bets, but you throw in that guy. You know, the guy with the ears. But then again, it's just manna from heaven for comedians. It's like, so if Tracy's having an affair, that's weird. Yeah, with his biographer. Really? She wrote a biography? Yeah, it's called All In. Seriously. Petraeus' biography is called All In. Why didn't you just call it I'm fucking David Petraeus? I mean, that whole thing was crazy. It had twins, and there was people sending and texting pictures and emailing pictures. I think it's fine to email pictures or text pictures of your half whatever self. But here's just what I think is a rule. It's kind of a on request kind of thing. You don't text on spec. Don't make that assumption. Like, hey, I'm gonna send some photos of my junk over. Surprise! This seems like a bad plan. You know, you're sitting with your mom in the nursing home trying to figure out why Alina hasn't delivered the oxygen, and boom, there's a big erection on your phone, and that's sometimes you don't want to be surprised with a big George O'Keeffe painting in your phone. It just feels crazy. It does. It just feels like, why on earth do these people think they can get away with it? You know, and then it just keeps happening, and we just keep going more forward, and all the while, it's just like, you think there's a break, you think that somehow there was an election and a message. People weren't particularly psyched about their take on ladies. Maybe we should look at them differently. Like, humans. Maybe if we're the Congress, we've been sort of, pistol whipped by the electorate. When we pick some leadership of our committees, we should pick a woman. Or not. They went with not. 20 chairmanships. 19 of them white guys. Then they were like, oh, people are still pissed about that. All right, well, we have one slot open. We'll give that to a woman. And do you know what the name of the committee was that the one Republican woman is heading up? It's called the Congressional Housekeeping Committee. Yes. Yes. By the way, you can Google everything I say tonight because it's all true. Except for the maybe why didn't you fight book. I'm fucking Joan Patrice. She didn't. Yeah, the Congressional Housekeeping Committee. So, it just shows your party is sort of dumb. And then I was thinking, these people are so, they're just floating out to sea with their ideas, these Republicans. And then I was like, well, maybe in ancient Mayan, the word world means Republican. So when it was supposed to be the end of the world, we all just read it wrong because it was just translated inaccurately. And it is the end of the Republicans. Because they are dumb. And the party, they're so dumb, I think they booked 4 nights in Branson. They're dumb. And so as they're fucking around with their craziness, we just keep inching closer and closer to this fiscal cliff or curve or whatever the fuck you call this thing. And I'm like, what are you doing? What's John Boehner? What kind of leader? He's really bad at his job. It's true, Rachel mad at it, the whole thing. She was like, John Boehner's just bad at his job. He's really bad at it. And he's a drunk. He's drunk and he's bad. There's no worse company. He acts like a big drunk who doesn't know what to do with responsibility. I can't. I'm still on. And when he does get enthused, he fights tirelessly for the second homeless. What's wrong, dude? What are you doing? And you look at John Boehner, and he just looks like every evil stepdad in a Lifetime movie. And it seemed like they were kind of doing okay. It sounded like there was maybe going to be some compromise. I don't know about you, but I was sort of furious when all of a sudden I heard that Obama put Social Security on the table for some weird reason. Somebody needs to remind me he won. Dude, what are you doing? Get that off, okay? So Social Security's on the table, that freaked me out. And then all these $750 billion of Medicare cuts, and you're like, okay, well, if you're cutting $750 billion from Medicare and you're cutting Social Security, should we really even call them Medicare or Social Security? Should we just call them Medi and Social? Because there's not really much care or security. I'm freaked out at this point. But it's not, and they just keep talking about how there needs to be this shared sacrifice. And I don't really know what their interpretation of shared sacrifice is, but I think maybe when you're given tax breaks for 8 years because you're going to create jobs, and then you don't create jobs, in fact you send jobs overseas, and then the people who are expecting those jobs don't get jobs, and so they don't pay into the Medicare and the Social Security, and then they're collecting unemployment, and that's going to run out, and then they can't get more money, they'll get less money when they collect the Social Security. Then guess what? They shared. They shared. I don't know what you shared, but I don't trust these people. These ladies, really, do you need an OBGYN? You should just team up with Apple. Come up with an app smear. For your iPad. That's a plan. Because it's crazy. So John Boehner, they're having this kind of plan, and then Boehner which just is a bad plan to even plan all your plans. Which was the most horrible plan ever. You know, when you can't even, you know, we'll let, if you make $999,000. But we've got to pay for, if we're going to raise the taxes of people who make $1 million a year or more, we got to do something, pay for that somehow. How are we going to do that? I don't know, maybe poor people can just sell their children. And the profits can go to up that. Maybe that's a plan. And I was like, or maybe just Kickstarter can just replace all social programs. Just start a little thing on your own. I'm going to form a band and pay for my hip replacement. But do you think they can get anything done with these teabaggers? I think they can't. These people are psycho. Honestly, I think these crazy people who do it. First of all, what fucking world do people live in where you don't have to compromise? How many people here are in relationships or have never been in one? Or have, like, driven a car? It's so, they're like these red fire ants that are just gnawing at John Boehner's testicles. You know? They should just call him Speaker of the House, because really that's what it is. Just see, I don't understand it. And I have no more patience. I have no more patience, I have no more diplomacy or decorum, because these people are raging assholes. They are not clear-thinking humans. They chase any clear-thinking Republican out of the party, kicking, screaming, running. They're terrified. And then they look at us like we're nuts. Right? I mean, I'm surprised we don't look into this room and just see a whole bunch of people with purple bruises on the foreheads and like, you think there's going to be some coup against John Boehner? Do you think those young guns, do you know the young guns are very anti-Paul? Very young, hip, edgy. They are young guns. They're going to have overthrow. Nothing says coup d'etat like a guy in Dockers. I mean, you look at them and you go, I'm not sure your coup is going to work. I'm not sure the three of you together could assemble an IKEA bookshelf. Nancy Pelosi, man, you know, she got shit done. She passed all these bills, right? They all died in the Senate. And then she's always shat upon, like, all these women, you know, everybody just talks about the way they look, you know, why did Nancy Pelosi have so much Botox? It's like, okay. You know why Nancy Pelosi has so much Botox? Because she has to look at John Boehner every day. And at some point, there is only one way to mask that much disdain, and it is that populism to please your fans. Nancy Pelosi is a populist patriot. And here you read, I mean, I don't even know what to say about that guy. He's kind of useless. Isn't he? I mean, he couldn't sell a ball gag at an S&M convention. He couldn't sell anything. I know, you really don't want to visualize Harry Reid with a big helmet. I'm sorry, that was me. That was people. And then the year just started getting ugly and weird, and the gun violence became so intense. You know, there was Aurora, and then there was Portland, and then there was this Newtown thing, and it was just so upsetting and crazy. And we live in Minnesota. Everybody here knows somebody who hunts. You know what? Hunt away. I have venison in my freezer. I don't care. And I thought maybe this time would be the time that we're going to have conversations that are real. But oh no, Mike Huckabee first one to weigh in. Or Mike shut the fuck Huckabee. Let's just call him. lack of God in schools. He says everything that happens is because there's a lack of God in schools. My Huckabee is just like Carrie's mom. Said crazy, you know, Jesus. And God made Eve from the rib of Adam, and Eve was weak and loosed the raven on the world, and the raven was called sin. Say it with me. The raven was called sin. And that is why we have God. What is wrong with you? Go home. Why do we say shit like this? The classrooms were feminized. Let's claim every fucking thing we can. And you're like, oh my God. Wait. There's people who are coming out and actually saying rational things. People who would congressmen, senators, who would come out and say, I have an A rating from the NRA. I have an A rating from the NRA, and I think we need to talk about. But first of all, if you have an A rating from the NRA, it's like, you know, being a farmer getting an A rating from Monsanto. But anyway. So they were like, we need to talk about this. And so, okay, and then I'm like, all right. And then the president gave that speech because he's been so anemic on guns that I can't even, you know, the only thing he's ever done about guns is allow them in public parks and on trains. You know, like it's like he went in a time machine. You know, well, I don't know, manifest destiny. What? Dude, hello? So it seemed like people were weighing in. It seemed like it was going to be okay. And then we all waited for the NRA to weigh in, thinking, well, they've got it at this point. Go, you know, maybe we can have smaller magazines, or, you know, maybe we can talk about mental health in a real way. You know, you thought something. They're going to come with something. I mean, you know, when the obesity and all this stuff happened in fast food, you know, the fast food people, you know, they didn't go, we're not going to make fries anymore. They, you know, salads on the menu. Put the nutritional value on food. They did something. So you're like, people do that. So we waited. And they decided that they would finally speak. And so, Wayne was up here on the mothership, lambs on national TV, and then unloads the biggest pile of bullshit that I've ever heard, pretty much announcing, no, you are not really the leader of hunters and sportsmen. You're basically the leader of the AK-47%. It was so, this speech, when it was like, we need a national database of the mentally ill. And I'm like, we have one, it's called the NRA. Video games from the 90s. He blamed the show I Love the 90s on VH1. He blamed everybody, everything, except the fact that guns were involved. And at first I was like, why the fuck does this guy get unfettered talking for half an hour on TV? And then I was like, oh, that's good. Just let him talk, because he seems like a nutbag. And protecting everything. And I was like, we are not going to have Kevlar onesies, you asshole. Somebody needs to get rid of him. And then they kept showing that gun over and over again. The gun, the Bushmaster 47. The gun, the Bushmaster. I'm like, you know what? We have spent 18 months in this intense war on women. I do not need to hear the words Bush and master in the same sentence. I really don't. Thank you. Down memory lane really begins. Because I think we got here when, I'm not going to take us all the way back to where we got here, because I think we got all the way back here with the 2010 elections. So I'll take us back to basically when the proposals in the Congress started happening that were insane. The cutting of the funds of NPR, the cutting of the funds of Planned Parenthood, the cutting of the funds of the national parks, because all of these things are destroying America. Apparently they're performing abortions at Yosemite on Car Talk or something. And just when you took a breath from the weirdness, LIzz decides that it is an outrage that if you work at a Catholic institution, that Catholic institution should have to pay for your health care. And so he assembles a panel of white clergymen to talk about contraception. And this is when shit got real. There's really a few occasions when you want anybody like this around you. We all invoke God's name maybe occasionally when we're having sex. I've been known to maybe say, "Oh God." I've never been known to say, "Oh League of Catholic Bishops." Maybe you do, and that's your thing, and go for it. In the middle of the conversation with these guys about birth control, Rick Santorum's birth control guy comes on TV and suggests that women just put an aspirin between their knees. Which I tried. And you can't have sex. Which apparently wasn't the point. And I got in so many screaming matches with right-wing assholes who would get, "Oh, why should I have to pay for your birth control? Why should I have to pay for your birth control? Why? And I'm like, you know what? I would pay any amount of money for yours. You made it. And the guys I'm asking, they kept saying, "We don't have a jobs bill." It's like, that's because you keep proposing abortion bills. And bills about contraception, and bills about vaginas. My uterus has never created a job. Newsflash. Bigger newsflash, my uterus doesn't even do the job it's supposed to do anymore. I use it for storage. To watch these people fighting tirelessly so women could have the same rights in America as they do in Saudi Arabia. Saying stupid shit like, why do women need Planned Parenthood? Can't they just get their health care at Walgreens? And, you know, I have had a breast exam at Walgreens. But it was just a guy doing at my booth. Now, I really believe that the Republicans' favorite sexual position is the overreach around. And where they really just show that they're in the ash heap of relevance is when they say shit like, you know, women don't want to hear about all this birth control talk. Women want to hear, they care about the economy. It's like, oh my, really? Because there's nothing economic at all about having kids you can't pay for. Why would you make that? You're right. Wow, we're so stupid. And what about if you just don't want kids at all? Like me. I never wanted kids. Should I just walk the earth a spinster, barren, alone, tumbleweeds. I never got that. It's like they are so dumb. They're like, well, you know, because I get accused a lot from the right of being, you know, a woman who just didn't find the right man. And I was just going to be full of regrets. And that I didn't understand that motherhood is the hardest job in the world. And I was like, here's what I understand perfectly. That motherhood is the hardest job in the world. That's why I'm not doing it. In fact, since we both agreed that motherhood is the hardest job in the world, why would you fuck 14-year-olds and let them do it? Should we have 14-year-old coal miners and brain surgeons too? Because I think those are 2 and 3 maybe on the list. Or New York City sanitation worker. It's crazy. And that's all things that I made a choice to not have kids because I thought I would be bad. I thought this is terrible, this seems too hard, people that are mothers and parents, just, once that happens, that's it. That is your priority. You prioritize your kids, that's what you do, right? Right? Yeah. Please say yes. I have some massive child services come and call y'all around. But I just know about myself. I can't function in the morning without coffee. I can't deal. Like if I had a kid and coffee, and I had to go out to the car with both things, take the kids someplace up in the back or wherever you take children, and I put both things on top of the car. I know for sure I would go get the coffee. I know that. I can't be sure of the child, which is why I don't have them. So instead of yelling at me, I say, you're fucking welcome. That's what I say. You don't have to be that enthusiastic about having children, really. I know you think you're helping, you're kind of not. But they're terrified of, this whole conversation to me is about being terrified of women who are finally saying, we want to see at the table, we want power, that's the bottom line. You can't talk about us, you have to talk with us about life in general. And, you can see that even when they see, they demonized the Girl Scouts this year. This was one of my favorite stories of this year. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? So, it was the 100th anniversary of the Girl Scouts this year. And the biggest asshole in the We Hate the Girl Scouts bunch was a guy in Indiana who refused to commemorate the Girl Scouts because he said, quote, Girl Scouts are sexualizing young girls and molding them into feminists, lesbians, and communists. And I was like, I wish. That'd be awesome. And he's so angry at the Girl Scouts. I was a Girl Scout. I didn't know the Girl Scouts. Right? And I love the Girl Scouts. I remember Rice Krispie bars from Girl Scouts. And camping and mothers drinking in tents. Thinking that they didn't know that we knew that they were drinking in tents. And I was like, I don't remember any radical Girl Scouting shit, and I dug out my satch. And I was like, wow, I guess we were kind of edgy. I had a badge for, I built a fire rubbing 2 old vibrators together. And I made a dental dam. Translated the Communist Manifesto. French, Swedish. 2 badges for that. Maybe they're on something, I don't know. But it just feels weird, and I don't know if you know the the last 18 months doing this national tour for Planned Parenthood, which is why I'm so happy. And Parenthood and Mayoral, I've raised over $2 million in the past 18 months. It's really fun. And so when you go to these states and you think you're in the biggest shithouse ever, and you hear these laws, they just get crazier and crazier. I mean, stuff like, you know, Louisiana, they have closed every single family planning clinic that's affordable, pretty much, except for 2. Yeah, I mean, the only way to get a breast exam is to be in a Mardi Gras parade. That's it. Like, there it is. Exactly. In Texas is so, I think it's actually illegal to exfoliate in Texas. I think that's removing cells you couldn't throw in jail for using a loofah. I'm pretty sure. It's weird. In Arizona, I don't even think it's legal to have a vagina in Arizona. It's honestly. They tried to pass a bill in Arizona that said you were pregnant 2 weeks before you were pregnant. Which I don't even know what that means. Like, how does this even happen? What? What does that mean? Take your daughter to work day as a tampon or an erection or something? Like, what are you talking about? And then, because we got a little bit complacent, because you think, oh, this is just happening in Louisiana and Alabama and Mississippi and all this stuff. And it's like, no, it's happening everywhere. Michigan has, they just passed something called a mega abortion bill. Yeah. It is the most prohibitive bill in the country. You know, within the 2 weeks of this anti-union stuff. This governor is a fucking shit show. This Michigan governor, he makes Scott Walker look like Michael Moore. This guy sucks. Seriously. That anti-union bill he signed, that is crazy. Like, he's organizing so much, I think he banned California closets. This guy is terrible. I like that joke. It's kind of a goofy joke. It's I like that joke. He banned California closets. Because they're organizing. And the transvaginal thing, that was the craziest. The transvaginal probing, where they take this camera, curling iron, vibrator thing, whether you want it or need it or not, make you pay to have some weird ass fucking, I don't even know what, going on. And I'm telling you, I don't know if we can stop it, but if we can't, I am going to insist that they take that vaginal camera thing and give it to the TSA and I get some health care for free somewhere. If I'm going to the airport and you put me through a screen, I want a breast exam, I want a gynecological screening, check my luggage, all of this shit. It's something. It's something. Like nobody ever asked me for my ideas. Very exciting. Maybe small government just means small spaces. And I just wish they would get the hate straight. You know, this is what's good. When you're hateful and it's like spin art, it's very hard to deal with. Because it used to be when you would get angry with people who disagreed with you politically, they had a philosophy that was just shitty. You know, it was a philosophy that you could kind of see through, and at the end of the day, the trickle down didn't work, but rich people got rich and you understood it and it made sense. And you're like, well, that's the dumbest fucking thing I ever heard. You just want to screw poor people. Yes, I do. Okay, well, it's a plan. Execute it on paper. But now they just say shit that's crazy. They say shit like, you know, my favorite one they say is, Sharia law is taking over America. In the same breath that the gays are taking over America. It's like, which is it? Is it the Sharia law or the gays? Because I know it's not the gay Sharia people. I've never met a gay person that says, I demand to get married at 10 a.m. so that they can stone me in the courtyard by noon. Don't you feel like they're just going to repeal the 21st century? That's what I feel like these people stay in power. I want a 28th Amendment to the Constitution, just to like have them blow up. That would be like, you know, undocumented gays have the right to get married and have abortions at a mosque at Ground Zero, or just something, just combining all of it together, and they just all fit. Because sometimes look at the Tea Party and I think, are you just a result of Reagan opening up all the mental health facilities? I'm at a loss. I'm not wrong. 2 words, Tom Aiken. People, that happened. Tom elected 6 times to the Congress. Believes, as we know, that women have some kind of magical, I don't know, special power juice that has the ability to shut certain sperm down or turn it into something else or something, like we're some kind of universal remote. Everybody knew that wasn't true, except Todd Aiken. Because if I could be perfectly frank, if women had the power to turn sperm into something else, we would turn it into scotch. Or ranch dressing, or chocolate sauce, or something else. And since we haven't, that guy's on the science committee. Tom Aiken's on the science committee. Michelle Bachman's on the intelligence committee. That's all you need to know about the Republican Party. I could have just said that and walked off stage. Speaking of that shit, okay, now we're finally to the primary. See, there's a lot to fucking talk about today. This is 1 year, it's crazy. So let's talk about the primary, shall we? Let's look at all these people. There's a whole row, look at them all. Look at them all there. Here's how funny. So I get all the candidates, I make my graphic, and I realize I forgot Tim Pawlenty. And I was like, oh my God, I'm coming to Minnesota, I forgot Tim Pawlenty, do I put him in? No. Oh, that's what I thought! I was like, in sort of a metaphor, that I forgot T-Paw. You probably want to also. I know. And then what's so hilarious that, last year Pawlenty was voted the least influential man in America. I know. And Herman Cain was the same thing in IQ magazine, so that's interesting. I know. There's a lot of fun in here for someone like me. I could have probably done a 1-person show on each of these, and this is the part where you're like, I really had a hard time cutting material, because it was just like, holy shit, what do you do with Herman Cain? He was a fucking walking soundbite. Right? The whole Chucky Ducky and the 999 and the whole, everything he said, he just sounded like a guy who was just hauled in a knife wood. Herman Cain, blah, 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 again. Right? I mean, it was crazy. But Herman Cain, I kind of had to go with the things that kind of cooked each of their geese. I thought that was the best way to play with. For him, it was totally when he was asked about Lydia. Remember, he was sitting in that room, and they asked him about Lydia. And he was like, Lydia. The Lydia? And the president's waiting on Lydia. It was 4 minutes of him going, Lydia. Until he finally just said, I did not have sex with that Lydia. The only thing that would have been awesome about a Herman Cain Barack Obama matchup would be that there would be mass suicides in the Klan. They wouldn't know what. They'd be just like, we're out of here. Gone. Hanging out our hoods. And Rick Santorum, oh my God, speaking of birth control, nobody hates birth control more than Rick Santorum. He hates birth control so much, I'm surprised he pulled out of the race. Honestly, that one is a mess. Such a fucking mess. And the thing about Rick Santorum, early on, Rick Santorum said the shittiest thing he said throughout the whole sweater vestry that was his fucking time best. And he said about John McCain that John McCain didn't know anything about torture. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shit I will say about John McCain. I will not say that about John McCain. You cannot. Right?
Right.
I mean, he was with Sarah Palin for 6 years. See where I went? I sucked you all in. Yeah. See, we can be compromising. Yeah. Yeah. Fucking yeah. No. And Newt Gingrich. Who ever need to hear from him ever again? Literally, Newt Gingrich looks at his career and says, "Yeah, I think this is a good move. Let me just go run for president. Because there's nothing. I think there's 6 people who still like me or don't know about me that I would like to change that." Really, Newt Gingrich was just like an angry Macy's balloon that got loose, bouncing the walls, deflating. This was a mess. I don't want him to be president. That guy is the greediest motherfucker. He just wanted money any way he could get. He was like a truffle pig hunting for money. Anyway, snuffing it out. Gross. I mean, you were just saying, like, you know, what the fuck was wrong with him? I think we need to have black children just drop out of school and be janitors in moon colonies. What the hell he would say? With a straight face. How dare you ask me about my 3 ways? And the only woman I ever talk about her looks is his wife. Because she fucking freaks me out. That helmet and that bird face. She looks like those things that you buy that go in the water and drink. I have a book. We're going to the zoo. Poor Rick Perry. Oh. I mean, he just didn't get it that America just didn't want the dollar store George Bush. Oh, so dumb, so stupid. It was his, remember his big economic plan? I think the cornerstone was, you know, solar power executions or something. Just all, just terrible. Oh, but that nail in the coffin was when he was he was very adamant he was going to abolish all of these parts of the government. We're going to abolish commerce and education and looking around for help, Ron Paul's going EPA. And Herman ain't going EEOC. The EEOC one never gets a laugh. I love you people. And Ron Paul, I don't even know what the fuck that is. I really don't. I mean, it's like, what is wrong with you? Who are you? What is that? I really, you know, he has this rabid group of followers who, like, fish goes on tour, they disappear. And it's like they follow Fish and Ron Paul, and there's this tremendous cycle that happens. But here's the weirdest thing to me about Ron Paul is, besides everything, is the fact that Ron Paul is a gynecologist. Yes. Yes. What kind of desperate level of hell do you have to be in? To be in stirrups? With Ron Paul all in there going, scoop down, scoop down, scoop down, scoop down, scoop down, scoop down, scoop down. And just the creepy hand makes it work, right? Every woman who's ever been with a guy. And then Ron Paul's at the end of that shit. It's like, talk about not wanting government in your business. And you gotta save Michelle Bachmann for last. what was that weird thing she was doing, this campaign? Oh yeah, Marcus. She had a lot. She had a lot. You know, between the, announcing in Waterloo and saying that John Wayne was from there, and it was John Wayne Gacy, and blah, 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 and Lexington Concord, and God called her to run. By the way, God called 3 of these people to run, and they all lost to Mitt Romney. And then he lost to Barack Obama. So if God's calling any of these people, their digit is 1 number off of Barack Obama. I'm sorry, I gotta go. But I have 2 for Michelle Bachmann, and one was when she said that Planned Parenthood was the lens crafters of big abortion. Which I don't even know what that means. I mean, is she saying that Planned Parenthood is like Walmart? And they're putting mom and pop abortion clinics out of business? Because that's what I heard first, because that's what you hear when you're like, not Walmart, geez, ruining everything. And it's like, or I wish it kind of was the lens crafters of big abortion. I wish you could have Planned Parenthood Mall, like a Chico's, Cinema, and a cafeteria, I'm a fan. But when she said, and this is my Michelle Bachmann big, was when she said that a woman came up to her after one of the debates and told her that her 12-year-old daughter got the HPV vaccine and that her daughter, quote, turned mentally retarded. I was like, you just told that story in public. Because, again, that can't happen ever. So, if somebody came up to any of us and said, my daughter got a vaccine and turned mentally retarded, we would say to that person, are you okay? Do you need a ride home? Can I call someone for you? That's what normal people do. They don't go on TV and repeat it again. I live in Brooklyn. 3 times a week I got some crazy ass person telling me stories. I once had a woman walk up to me and tell me she fought in the Peloponnesian Wars. In great detail. I didn't go on MSNBC and go, you guys, there's a woman who's 2,500 years old and we're not fucking covering it. I said to her, do you need a ride home? I mean, is it too much to ask that we treat Michelle Bachmann the way we treat other nut allergies? Right? Put up signs whenever she goes someplace. This facility has touched nuts. Nuts have been in here. Right next to the gun on premises sign. They picked the winner. They picked the winner. That happened. Instantly, from this moment forward, the enthusiasm was palpable, wasn't it? They were just like, there was Mitt Romney, and the endorsements were, sort of, I think the Easter Bunny was hiding them. I think, some people just sort of inserted their endorsement into their iTunes service agreement. It was just absurd. It just felt like the crazy sinking ship. And what was, everybody, even if you wanted to vote for a Republican. You were just like, what is this person? Who is he? Honestly, who is he? He's had more positions than the Kama Sutra. For real. And he was trying to pull off this pathetic regular guy act. And that was the part that was so insulting with his lady wranglers, and he's like, all there. At one point, Google, when he says, I'm normal, I have emotions. It's like, who has to say that? Say that. Did you get the HPV vaccine? Banks are people. They're not bad people. They're just scared people. Like you. They have feelings like you. It's like, are you like bloated and bitter in the banks? And this is the banks. This isn't the corporations or people. Banks are also people. And by the way, if corporations are people, we need Planned Parenthood more than ever. That's all other. And it's so delusional. Taking credit for everything. Except Romney here. That was the weird part. We have a healthcare plan based on his healthcare plan that he denies. But when it comes to the bank bailout, he's all in it. That was my idea, I was very for that. Very much for that. It's like, yes, it seems that you were. It seems when you wrote that editorial called Let Detroit Go Bankrupt, that you were all about that. And read it, I'm sure it was all about the ways that we wouldn't let Detroit go bankrupt. And then he decided that he would go be, I don't know, the international man of mystery. He went on that world tour just to up his own personal ante by landing in London and telling them what a shitty job they were doing. And traveling over to Israel, declaring Jerusalem the capital. Going to Poland, screaming at the press, kiss my ass, this is a holy site, one of his aides yells at the press, just because they wanted to know why the hell they were following him around Europe on a tour that made no sense. And by the way, kiss my ass, this is a holy site, is also the cornerstone of Paul Ryan's healthcare plan. So it was just this international traipse through hell. I don't even think you should get a lot of the international house of pancakes. It's just insane. I kind of still want to see his taxes. Right? I mean, not releasing your taxes is a pretty shitty, weird way to get back at your dad. His dad released like 14 years of his taxes. He didn't care. Who knows if it's hiding. And then all of his offshore banking and all of his crap. I think that song Kokomo was just about his offshore accounts. And you add Ann into the mix, and it just shit gets weird. I cannot deal with Ann Romney. Honestly, she is such a whiner. It's shocking to me. When she was like, Nick and I struggled in college. Very hard. In fact, at one point, we had to sell stocks. I sold plasma. And pot. They did those series of interviews sitting there together, like, I bought this shirt at Costco. We got it at Costco. If you went to Costco, you went there because it's the only middle-class place that requires a membership. And the whining constantly with you tried doing this, it's hard. You tried it? The windows don't roll down on my plane. It's hard. It's like she was in some fucking Steinbeckian Odyssey that we were also like Dust Bowl Anne. It's like, what the fuck? Wow, where's Dorothea Lange? This chronicle, this epic sojourn that you're on. Shut up. Honestly, she makes Nancy Reagan look like Betty White. thrilled her horse made it feel breakfast. Because you gotta be honest, if it wasn't for those greedy teachers' unions, we'd all have horses. Saying. It's almost as though you get to some level of really, stratospheric wealth, and you don't have anybody who can say to you, would you just fucking listen to yourself? Because that's what keeps us all in check, right? When we start going off on some weird thing, and that's why you're all here tonight, because you just finally get to like me. And they don't have that, and so they go about doing these weird things, and then they pick Paul Ryan to be the running mate. Paul Ryan. I know, I love this picture of Paul Ryan. Remember when he went to the homeless shelter and did the dishes when they were already clean and there was no homeless people? But whatever, I was trying to be there. It's quiet. You get a lot of money. So you pick this douchebag who's had one idea, and the horrible one, by the way. When you have nuns getting a bus and tracking you down and telling you you're a sack of shit, you're a sack of shit. And he plays his Catholic card, Well, I think he believes communion is a handout, quite frankly. I think he's screaming about his plan. It's not a coupon, it's not a voucher. What is it? Well, it's, you just give people a bunch of money, and then when they run out, they're done. So like a voucher? Nothing like a voucher. Groupon? I don't know, Paul. So I picked Paul Ryan, that's his one bad idea, and then they chucked the idea. So now you're just left with a shirt with dishpan hands. Who is useless to your family. And it was just basically what it boiled down to, without Paul Ryan factoring in, is basically the community organizer versus the gated community organizer. That's kind of what we had. I know, that's a good one, right? I know. Gated community organizer. I know. I just have to say, sometimes you say things, like somebody must have said this. Seriously, I cannot be the only person. And then you Google it and you're like, no one else said that. Okay. That's what happens if you have no other skills. You get it PowerPoint. So now we get into it. We're at the conventions. We're getting there, people. Are you okay? Yeah. So the convention started. I was in Minnesota. My other thing that I love besides politics, well, I love it more than just politics, but I love to cook. And so one of the greatest things in my career was I invited to be on the splendid table. I know, I got to cook the food for the Casper. It was really fun. And so I came in and I did that, and the juxtaposition of cooking this really brilliant pasta dish together and then going to the fair was so fun. But I went to the fair and gorged. By the way, the spaghetti and meatballs on a stick at the fair, if you haven't had it, it's kind of the unsung favorite. It's the bread and the meatball and it's fucking delicious. Anyway, so I just finished my spaghetti and meatballs on a stick, and I'm walking around the fair, and I'm walking over the radio booths, and I look over, and this happened. Maybe you'd like to know how this happened. So I'm like hearing the lilting tones of Michelle Bachmann coming from the I think it's KSTP, is that the conservative radio? Okay, and there's people in the bleachers and they're kind of scary, so I'm like, oh look, it's Michelle Bachmann, I must get her picture of her on Facebook because that's funny. And she's going, rat. So there's others gathered to take Michelle Bachmann's photo, and she pops out like a gnome from a big giant mushroom. And he goes, would you like to be in the picture? 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 And she's coming closer and closer and closer to me. You want to be in the picture? And she looks at me and she just said, would you like to be in the picture? I was like, yes, please. Where are your handlers? Right? Not a loudmouth. Like, there's no secret about me or Michelle Bachman and it's Minnesota. Like, wow. So, I'm standing there with my phone and I look at my phone and it has died. Thank God I was with my friend who took the picture. And so she just grabs me and leans in and I was like, and so I'm just standing there and she goes, okay then. And I was like 60 feet away, already tweeting it. By the time I tweeted it to the red velvet funnel cake stand. It had 2,000 hits on Facebook. It was everywhere. But the best comment I got is, do you know Jeremy Scahill, the journalist? He's an amazing human being, and he wrote the book on Blackwater, and he has been in Syria for a year, covering the shit show in Syria and in Yemen. He sends me a note, he goes, I have spent the past year in Syria and Yemen, and that is the scariest fuck. Okay, so anyway, let's go to the GOP convention, shall we? So this thing was, I mean, it was really astounding. Because you turn it on, and like I was just going, wow, never have so few cared so little about those with so much. I mean, it was so, wow, and I'm looking at them going, all right, they would give these flowery speeches about themselves over and over. I'm so great. Mitt Romney was never mentioned. It felt weirdly bizarre. And then they were pulling off this whole weird, infernal, we built this meme, which was so annoying. It's like, how do you even really say we built, like, really? You actually had no help making a thing ever. You just miraculously created something without the help of anyone ever. You delusional freak. I mean, so basically I just don't even understand, how can you say, we built this, when there's 150 million people on LinkedIn? Everyone realizes you don't build things alone. They're constantly connecting. How am I connected? We're connecting, we're networking, we're connecting. No, they're not connecting, because they also don't have to compromise, so that's true. But they all just went on, and with Romney, and blah, blah, blah. And Anne, when Anne Romney, she got up there, we love women! She just talked about the real myth, you know? It's really, I think we all had a second thought that morning. She told some stories, you know? I didn't know Mitt hated cancer. Choose food with his incisors. Never drown a bag of kittens. That one really got me. I just looked at Mitt in a whole new way. It was carbon-based. That was fascinating. So much stuff. We judge so much, you know, when someone has the wall up, and then you go, wow. They actually survives on oxygen intake. Whoa. And then we had that beautiful, you know, tribute by Anne, and then the whole convention was just overshadowed by Dirty Harry. That was so, I mean, it was so weird because what really did was basically show America that it isn't just out of touch people who support Romney, it's really famous out of touch people. And then he had to follow that. And then the candidate spoke. And he had his 5-point plan and he fucking laid it out. It was so clear. Remember tax cut, tax cut, tax cut, tax cut, and tax cut. Boom. And he gave us the way to pay for it. People will work till they're 70. Yes! Because 70 is the new college graduate. I think you know that. You know what people love doing? Training somebody 70. It's an investment in tomorrow. Literally. How do you get away with saying shit like that? It's like 3 jobs for someone who was 70. Walmart reader, mall Santa, Pope. That's it. I know, all those awesome Mitt Romney ideas, and the only thing we'll remember is Eastwood in the chair. So weird, it was so weird. And it was so weird to go from, Clint to Clinton. Because when we went into that whole, right? Oh my God. Bill Clinton, man, I think he's still at the convention talking. He was really into it. Right? He laid it out, he explained all of the fucking things. He laid it out, and we were like, wow, you're not going to be president. Awesome. You are doing that thing. And like Jennifer Granholm, and she was all over the place, and the enthusiasm was so amazing. Obama's speech was amazing, and all of that energy, Barack Obama just took it and went right into that first debate, and wow! Junkies more enthusiastically write on cardboard for money. And Obama and that debate, it was like, what is wrong with you? You need Activia. And Jim Lehrer, that was crazy. He was too busy just moderating his own heart rate to realize Obama didn't have one either. It was wild. I mean, you know it's bad when Romney wins the debate after he's already threatened to cut the job of Big Bird and the moderator. I mean, it was so weird. I don't know. I think we're going to find out something went down. I don't know what happened that night. And hopefully in our lifetimes, Barack Obama will say, you know. I was standing on, and the binders will open and think, I think we all just collectively went, of all of the what the fuckery to this point. Holy wow, dude, because I know that the cave that you were living in, where no women came into your purview that had any intellect, 8 years at Harvard, or at that company Bain that you created, or at the Olympics. And so when you were finally elected governor, and you looked around and went, wow, only I could find some smart women. Somebody go find me some smart women who don't have to get home and cook for their husbands. I don't know if you use the term career gals. But at that moment, I was like, there is more feminism in a shake weight commercial than in this person's entire. Okay, I mean, honestly, if you want to know how Mitt Romney probably ran the Capitol, I would suggest just rent a Rock Hudson Doris Day movie. It's like so much that. But let me tell you, the best part of that debate, again, Libya was a lot. But when Mitt Romney started going up about how Barack Obama never used the word terrorism, when you hold a Trump card, we all want that moment in our lives. Just like that. Right? You're just sitting there because that was so surreal, it almost felt like a movie. Like he was just sitting there. And when he had the opportunity to say, please proceed. You know he was thinking, keep stepping in an asshole. It was awesome. It was awesome. And then it was just kind of like Barack Obama. From that point forward, the trajectory this way. The third debate was amazing because that's when Mitt Romney, he has his smart about foreign policy and he listened to a whole bunch of countries that he heard of, and that's always what they do. There's happening over there in that place where there's a conflict in East Timor and blah, blah, blah. And I would never cut a penny from the military, not a penny from the Navy. I wouldn't even fucking fire that guy in the Village People. I'm serious. Shit that's so stupid. I defend Israel. Thank God. Because remember that time when America didn't defend Israel? Yeah, me neither. And rumor has it that it was Al Franken who gave Obama the line, we don't have horses and bayonets either. And I don't know if that's true, but I hope it is. Out when they were having their moment of agreement, and because their moment of agreement is the part of Barack Obama that I dislike the most, and that is the droning and the love. They talk about drones like they're helpful and they're awful, and they were having this coal drone off. I love coal. I love coal. I love clean coal. I love coal. I love this coal. There's no clean coal. Stop saying clean coal. It's like saying virginal whore. Stop saying it. Stop saying it. And the way they just kept talking about drones, and they love drones, and their agreement on drones. I was like, do you guys have drones in your spank bank? What's wrong with you? Stop with the love of the drones. And then, when you could see that Romney and Obama were having this agreeable moment, then the right wing started to freak out even more. You know, it's alarmingly moderate that he agreed with the president on things. And don't worry, he's lying. He's not really moderate. He is. He's not. And they were all so crazy. And they all were like, I don't know what's going to happen. They started spinning out of control. The polls weren't moving because the poll, again, people were looking at the polls. We all know how old people are going to vote. And then it wasn't just Romney, it was the unsolicited surrogates who started fucking profoundly speaking out. Oh my God, you know, before there was Hurricane Sandy, there was Slurricane Trump. That guy, Donald Trump, has replaced that bunch as America's #1 best. And to pathetically offer the president $5 million to the charity of his choice, and he would show his transcripts, I just wish the president would have said, Mr. Trump, you know, in America, we don't negotiate with terrorists. I just wish he would have said terrorists. I know it's a horrible pun, but I love the term terrorist. You did laugh before you were Thank you. sometimes I need my honor defended. It wasn't just him. I'm telling you, there should be a reality show called Here Comes Honey Sununu. I have to tell you, I made this graphic in 5 minutes. I was not. I was like, of all, it's a shit. Like, I slapped his face on there because I was in a huge hurry, and I was like, Honey Sununu is too funny. I had to build the graphic, and I just didn't have enough time to finish it. Honey Sununu. They've got to stop putting John Sununu on TV. It's beginning to get mean. It just feels mean. It feels like, again, HTV. That's it. And then everybody just starts throwing you out. Ronnie just starts saying shit that's crazy, and he's combining all of this crap. I'm like, and they made $380,000 selling illegal immigrants for 47%. Like, what? It was like that. Remember when the maid on the Jetsons got all discombobulated, Rosie? She was like, I don't know, some of my best friends are women minors. Actually, women will just self-abort. I know. Crazy. And you know what campaign's bad? By who they can get as their performers as the campaign goes on and goes down. Right? Talk about it, Jay-Z, Bruce Springsteen, everybody, except Ted Nugent and the Marshall Tucker Band. Apparently Night Ranger was booked. Now we're 2 weeks out. We're 2 weeks out of the election. And just when you go, oh wait, there couldn't be any more of a fuckwad anymore on women, could there? Oh yes, yes there could. And his name was James Murdoch. Remember him? Maybe you don't mind name. But he was the one that said that rape is a gift from God. Rape is a gift from God. Their God gives horrible gifts. In fact, if their God pulls my name for Christmas, tell them I just want a Bed Bath & Beyond card. And James Murdoch, unfortunately, was the only candidate Mitt Romney actually endorsed. Yes, the only one. Isn't that amazing? So then we go into Ohio, it's all coming down, and then Mitt Romney decides he's going to pull up all the stops in Ohio and double down on a crazy fucking lie about Barack Obama sending Jeep jobs to China, or sending Christianity and football to China, or Hot Pockets to China. He was just, Barack Obama at that point was just shipping anything that Americans ever did over to China. And it was like, at that point, what was so crazy was that there was still people who were undecided. And you're like, we're 2 days out. Either you're a fucking moron and want a fucking moron, or you don't. But you can't be on the fucking fence. I don't know, sometimes I just think rape is good. Pizza a vegetable. And declares, I think ranch dressing is a beverage. I think that we are just polluted. Our brains are polluted. And then we don't know what to do, and then the hurricane happens, and New Yorkers, I'm from New York, and I live about 6 blocks from Red Hook, which is one of the areas that is totally devastated, and we were just knocked on our feet. It was like sitting there, and everybody just looked at each other, paralyzed, going, oh my God, we said something nice about Chris Christie. I didn't know what to do. It was so weird. And then we had to be on water up on that Chris Christie. It'll pass. Just right now. And Rami again tried to pitch in Sandy, but he was really having a function and, getting cans of creamed corn for people who don't even have houses. I mean, again, just what the fuck I call somebody? Why are you collecting cans of Vienna sausages for people in New York? Go fuck yourself. You don't want your Vienna sausages. And there was panic, and now here we are on election day. And I think people, if they were undecided, at the end of the day, I think a lot of this had to do with women. Looking at their lives and going, I need to vote based on how I want my life. And I think that if there would be one bumper sticker that never made it into the campaign that could have sealed it up 6 months earlier, it would have been this one. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes tonight's presentation. I just want to say one thing. You guys are really fun. Let me bring to you. Thank you for coming. You guys are awesome. I never see them. But this year was a very big year for a lot of reasons. For me, one of the big things is that I wrote a book that came out called LIzz Winstead. It's a series of personal essays about my life and my family and sort of how a woman finds herself in front of people saying dirty things about politicians for money. And if you haven't gotten it, I encourage you to. I also want to, again, encourage you to go to sambreckenridge.com and listen to my nephew's music and friend him on Facebook. He's really, really talented. And he's somebody who, he is working tirelessly. He's super talented. And you need to support people like that because otherwise we get honey boo-boos. If we do not participate, the honey boo-boos of the world reign supreme. I would rather have Sam Breckenridge's than honey boo-boos.